5 years ago, the investigative journalist Nikole Hannah-Jones, in collaboration with a long list of other journalists and historians, published a long-form piece in the New York Times Magazine. It was called The 1619 Project. First published in August 2019, the project marked 400 years since the beginning of slavery in America. The project was designed to make the consequences of slavery and the contributions of black Americans a larger part of our national discourse. Nikole Hannah-Jones later developed that New York Times Magazine initiative into an award-winning book, also called The 1619 Project. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend that you do, or at least start with Hannah-Jones' first essay titled, "Our Democracy's Founding Ideals Were False When They Were Written. Black Americans Have Fought to Make Them True." The premise is not complicated, nor should it be divisive. It's simply true. The principle that every man is created equal was not remotely true when it was written by this country's forefathers. Hannah-Jones won a Pulitzer Prize for the project, but of course we all know that the story doesn't end there. A few months after Hannah-Jones won the prize, our then President Donald Trump sparked what would become a nationwide backlash against her work.
The left has warped, distorted, and defiled the American story with deceptions, falsehoods, and lies. There is no better example than the New York Times totally discredited 1619 Project. This project rewrites American history to teach our children that we were founded on the principle of oppression, not freedom. By viewing every issue through the lens of race, they want to impose a new segregation, and we must not allow that to happen.
Much better story than what was actually happening. Shortly thereafter, Trump issued a series of executive orders targeting the ideas specifically behind the 1619 Project. One of those executive orders established something called the 1776 Commission, which was a promise to implement what he called a, quote, patriotic education and the banning of so-called divisive issues like reckoning with the racist history of this country. President Biden repealed the 1776 Commission on his first day in office. But the ideas behind it remain alive and well and strong across this country. In the following couple of years after it was published, states would introduce at least 23 gag orders targeting the 1619 Project by name. Dozens more bills targeted it indirectly, usually by attempting to ban discussions of its core ideas. Other ideas of how to think and talk about race in America got swept up into the battle as well. Last year, a study through UCLA found that, including local efforts, anti-critical race theory measures have been introduced in every single state except for Delaware. The 1619 Project is not critical race theory in itself, but it inspired such broad backlash that almost any program, project, or theory about race came under attack. The effort to ban identity-conscious ideas and programs has led to the end of affirmative action. It's led to the widespread attacks on systems built to promote true equity, like diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Project 2025, the blueprint for a potential second term for Trump, funded by the Heritage Foundation, includes suggestions to eliminate critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and other identity-conscious paradigms from education nationwide, from all federal departments, from as many parts of American life as it can. In fact, the whole MAGA agenda can be seen as an answer to the 1619 Project. It actively promotes the widely debunked idea that claiming colorblindness is how we're actually going to achieve equality in this country. It discourages or even outlaws schools from teaching about systemic racism. It removes black and indigenous histories from curricula. It glosses over the darkest parts of our national history. It claims that encouraging people to consider race and systems of oppression is in itself a form of racial discrimination. Pretending that we can ignore race, pretending that we can ignore the anti-black systems upon which this country was built is a disservice to us, and it threatens our democratic system at its very core. Joining me now is the singular Nikole Hannah-Jones, creator of the 1619 Project, reporter for the New York Times Magazine, and founder of the Center for Journalism and Democracy at Howard University. Whew! That was a lot. I remember when you first published this, before the book came out, you and I talked in this building, and it was really remarkable and interesting, but I don't think any of us were thinking this is how it was going to unfold.
God, no. Yeah. You know, it's been 5 years, which seems at once a long period of time and a short period of time. But when you think of everything that's happened since we had our first conversation, it really is remarkable the way that government is using state power to try to mandate our ignorance, even as we see the effects of this history playing out in our society every day.
And I left a lot of stuff out of that story, including stuff that happened to you. But I think it's important to point out that you don't play, nor do you think you're a victim of this whole thing. In fact, when we spoke a few months ago, I want to just read, I want to play back actually what you said to me about this. Let's listen to this.
No one is more surprised at what both 1619 has become symbolically and what I've become symbolically. This was just a work of journalism to me, and I hoped people would read it, but I certainly didn't think it would kind of spawn this backlash that we've seen. You know, all of these anti-critical race theory laws, they began as anti-1619 Project laws, and it's really become this cultural phenomenon. But I guess that speaks to why we became journalists, understanding the type of impact and power that we can have around the idea of narrative and how we see our society.
And that's the point of the exercise, right? You did actually provoke a discussion. So now what happens? You poke the bear. There was some dry tinder there, and you lit it. Now what happens?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear that you don't see a project facing this type of backlash if that project is not having impact.
Right.
And every day I speak all over the country, and I see thousands of Americans, white Americans, Latino Americans, Asian Americans, Black Americans who are saying, I understand my country better, who are starting to really critique so much of the inequality that we accept. But now what happens next, though, I think is largely dependent upon us. Which version of America are we going to allow to move forward? We are in, as you know, an extremely polarized time, a time where people whose views seem antithetical to democracy are really pulling the levers of power to make it harder for us to vote, to make it harder for us to have a shared sense of civic obligation to each other. So I don't know what's going to happen next, but I fear, as I know you do, that we're ahead. We have some very dark times ahead unless we as Americans decide that we want a different country.
I don't wish to draw you into a debate with Donald Trump, but what do you say to people who say that you're trying to frame all of our history and society through race in some way that's damaging? I didn't hear that. When I first read what you wrote and subsequently the book, that's not how I saw it. I saw you adding more information to our corpus of history and knowledge about ourselves.
Well, it's fascinating to hear that argument from people who themselves are obsessed with race, right? These attacks on affirmative action, these attacks on DEI, the attacks on immigrants, these are all race obsessions, but they're pretending that it's in fact people like myself and the work that we produced that is divisive. We have to be honest about our history, and parts of our history are very ugly, but how can we possibly try to become the country of our highest ideals if we're not honest about what we were built upon? And if you actually read the project, it's actually the most patriotic thing I've ever written.
It's not angry. It's not. It's simply here's a piece of the story that is left out of our own narrative about ourselves.
Absolutely.
Why don't we have a more complete look at this thing? It doesn't come away as angry. It doesn't come away as mad at anyone. It doesn't come away as vengeful or divisive.
No, I mean, what it argues is that we have failed to live up to our ideals, but that Black Americans joined with other Americans to fight to try to make those ideals manifest. It actually is empowering. It says that we don't have to accept the society that we have, and that I actually think the highest calling of patriotism is not to say we can't ever critique our country, but to say that if our country is great, we have to work to make it so. That's true patriotism. Most of the people, though, who critique this project, who are trying to ban this history, it's clear they haven't read it. Or they haven't grappled seriously and sincerely with its ideals and arguments.
You were the impetus for us starting the Banned Book Club, and that's the point. Most of the people who critique most of these things haven't read them.
Absolutely.
They've just got ideas about what they are. So you know what? This is your invitation. Read the 1619 Project. It's published. You can read it for yourself, and then you can be mad about it or you can like it or whatever, but at least you can be informed. Nicole, great to see you again. Thank you.
Always great to talk to you.
Nikole Hannah-Jones is a Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter with the New York Times Magazine and the creator of the 1619 Project.